you. On the line with us is Victoria Jones, the chief Washington correspondent for the D.C. radio company. You can tweet her at Victoria Jones DC. And Victoria, welcome back to the program. It's been a while.
Great to talk to you, Tom.
Great speaking with you. Originally, back last week when we talked about getting you on the show, we were talking about, Trump's trip to the UK and Theresa May and all this other kind of stuff. And then I was out of town, and, so here we are today talking. In what has happened in the meantime is the indictments of these Russian intelligence officers and, of course, the press conference this morning after the 2-hour, 10-minute private meeting with no other people in the room between Trump and Putin. And I'm curious as, one of the more informed people in the news media. I respect your opinion tremendously, and you are such an astute observer, and you have the benefit of understanding of a bicultural understanding of this stuff and bicontinental understanding of these things. Before we get to Trump and Theresa May and all that stuff, I'm curious your thoughts on what happened this morning.
Yeah, well, I was pretty shocked this morning. My mouth fell more and more open, and I eventually shut it because I got worried about flies falling in. But we must get to Theresa May, more importantly, the Queen, because I'm
we will do that.
Shocked about that also. Well, it can be summed up rather well by going back to Prime Minister Tony Blair. Remember his spin doctor, who was very effective, Alistair Campbell, who got into quite a bit of trouble for his spinning. He tweeted this morning, "The last 10 minutes have been the highlight of Putin's KGB career."
Yeah, I think that's probably an accurate statement.
Yeah, that's from a spin doctor. Another tweet this morning from former CIA Director John Brennan. Donald Trump's press conference performance in Helsinki rises to and exceeds the threshold of high crimes and misdemeanors, Brennan said. It was nothing short of treasonous. Not only were Trump's comments imbecilic, he is wholly in the pocket of Putin. Republican patriots, where are you? Question mark, question mark, question mark.
Yeah. Well, and it was directly asked of President Putin, do you have compromising information on Trump? And he did not deny it. I've got the whole transcript right in front of me right here. And he says, there were over 500, I skipped through it, but he says, I didn't even know he was in Moscow. I treat him with the utmost respect, but back then he was a private individual. Nobody told me he was in Moscow. There were over 500 businessmen, high-ranking, high-level ones. I don't even remember the last names of each and every one of them. Look, do you think we tried to collect compromising information on each and every single one of them? Well, which is, by the way, an admission that they're collecting compromising information, I would think. And then he says, well, it's difficult to imagine an utter nonsense of a bigger scale than this. Please disregard these issues and don't think about this anymore. That's not a no.
Yeah, get this junk out of your head. Yeah, I mean, that he didn't deny it. And, Trump said, well, if he had it, don't you think he would have got out by now? Well, no, not if Putin didn't want it to get out, and if it was more valuable to him that it stayed in.
Right, that's the whole point of having it.
It exists.
You can't blackmail somebody if the information. I mean, the easiest way to short circuit somebody who's trying to blackmail you is to go public with the information. It's just that simple. Right. And so anyway, okay. So thank you for your thoughts on that.
But I think what was really shocking to the press, and there's been some very interesting tweeting and reporting from reporters in the room, members of the White House press corps today, right, who apparently sat pretty stunned after the press conference, and very good questioning by the White House press corps, I thought, today.
Yeah,
very good report.
Yeah, the fellow from Reuters, and I forget who the other one was.
Yeah, tougher than usual, actually, very tough. Was that they were just stunned that President Trump really not only did not rise to the occasion, but almost appeared to be giving the Russia line and giving Putin's answers for him. And also, he didn't say what happened in the private meeting, but I thought this was very interesting. When asked about the Russian interference, not only did he go into an extraordinary rant about the Democrats, but he said one thing that was very interesting, which was that Putin was very interested, had an interesting idea. And I immediately thought, Well, this is what Putin does. He's a former KGB agent. He understands people. He knows their weaknesses and their vanities. He knows that Trump likes conspiracy theories, and so he's come up with one, possibly, and this is what he's told him during this meeting, and President Trump is interested in it, and it's an interesting idea, and they're off to the races. And, of course, Putin presenting Russia as an equal and suggesting that Mueller, he will have undermined Mueller throughout the meeting, agreeing with Trump about the witch hunt, now is suggesting that they have a joint investigation, which I suspect we may hear in days to come President Trump sympathizing with.
Yeah, that shocked me rather too. So he started this thing out going to NATO, and then he went to the UK, if I'm remembering the sequence correctly. And in the UK, after dissing Theresa May, the Prime Minister, in the press, a story that leaked as he was having breakfast with her, as I recall, or lunch. And then he's walking in front of the Queen. I mean, how are the British reacting? What happened, and what did the British think of this?
Well, he didn't bow to the Queen, which was seen as a breach of protocol and rude. And then he walked in front of the Queen. And I think everybody's going, well, wasn't he briefed? And then they were also going, but why would you walk in front of a 92-year-old woman anyway?
Right.
I think that's what they were going, that this was just astonishingly rude, and she couldn't get round him. And then, of course, the story came out in the Sunday Times yesterday, which is a very reliable newspaper, even though it's also Murdoch-owned. But it's a serious paper. That Prince Charles and Prince William refused to meet with Trump.
Whoa, interesting.
Yeah.
So broadly, do you think that we saw 500,000 or 1 million people turn out? You could tell me, I don't remember the number, for the protesting Trump's inauguration, and then of course the next day I think it was well over 1 million people. The Women's March, and we had all these people out on the streets in the UK and in Scotland. Do they reflect the overwhelming sense of the British people, or merely the loud partisan half, or a small percentage, or what?
That there's a small percentage of people who like President Trump, but it's difficult to underestimate and to understate the dislike for President Trump and the astonishment with which the British say that why did Americans elect him? Because they have respect for Americans and they really like Americans. They genuinely don't understand, and they ask me this when I go over there or talk to them on the phone, we don't understand why you did this. Why did you do this?
Right.
Why? They don't get it.
Yeah, I was in Orlando last week, and there was a woman there from the UK. Actually, there are quite a few people there from the UK, but one woman in particular engaged me in conversation during one of the lunch breaks, and she was a wealthy, I'm assuming, from what I could see, a wealthy Brit, who said that it is now illegal in the UK to fly the Union Jack, to fly the flag of the United Kingdom, because it's racist. And I mean, it was this whole kind of screed about the nature and character of England is changing because of this merger with the European Union, and the European Union is bringing all these refugees in, and these refugees are now coming into the UK, and London doesn't look like London anymore, and blah, blah, blah. And it sounded to me like a fairly racist rant. But it's also the exact same kind of rant that you're hearing from Trump supporters when they talk about those people from south of the border. And I'm curious, what kind of purchase does that have? That's the Boris Johnson world, isn't it?
There is purchase for that. England doesn't look like England anymore. Well, no, it doesn't look like England in the 1910s, in 1913. No, it doesn't look like England in 1913, or the year before the First World War broke out. It doesn't look like that. No, it doesn't, and it never will again. And the majority of Britons love that. They love its sort of polyglot equality.
Right.
But there are some people who yearn for it like it once was. But, that's a time when women couldn't vote. So,
yeah. It's this bizarre notion that we're seeing on both sides of the Atlantic and frankly all over the world, that somehow the amount of pigment in your skin is going to determine your value system, and it seems to me so sad. It's just so wrong. Victoria Jones. Victoria, it's always great talking with you. Thank you for your insights and your thoughts.
Thank you very much.
And you can tweet Victoria at Victoria Jones DC. So, and Victoria, of course, works with she's the chief Washington correspondent for the DC radio company.